Good Monday morning, Muscatine. It is a cold Monday. I don't know who turned off the heat. I think what we need to do is all give Tim Kelly a call down at Kelly Heating and be like, yo, dude, what'd you do? I assume he broke everything. Great weekend in Muscatine. I saw so many pictures this weekend of trunk or treats gone crazy. You know, we had 14, 15 of them. And I have to say, my apologies to Ed Morris and MPW, somehow on our community calendar, we put MPW's address for Ed Morris's trunk or treat Friday night. And the good news is a lot of you guys use our community calendar because a bunch of you showed up at Power and Water for a trunk or treat that was out at Ed Morris. So my apologies for that, but thank you for using Discover Muscatine. I saw so many pictures, and I have to give a huge shout out to Stinky's House of Horrors. Of course, Troy Stinky Philpott was here on Thursday talking about it. My son and a bunch of his friends went through it Saturday night, and first of all, there was a gargantuan line. I can't wait to see what the official food total is on that, but gargantuan line, and they said it was amazing. They had an absolute blast. So, Troy, crew, great job. As we turn into, and actually don't forget, you still have an opportunity. If you haven't had enough Halloween yet, there's still more. So don't forget, tomorrow night is the official trick-or-treat. Of course, that's all still on discovermuscatine.com/Halloween. You can see all the times and all that fun stuff. Just remember, be safe, have fun, don't do anything I wouldn't do, which leaves it pretty well open. And Peggy, why did you chuckle? Why?
Well, I could see you sorting the candy going, this is my pile. You children don't want it.
No, actually, you know what? I'll tell you this. I don't do that. What we do, though, is he does have to pay. We've got to wet our beaks. He pays a tax. So every, I don't know what we usually do, but yes, he has to pay. He has to pay a tax to get him used to that. Is that not the greatest segue into our conversation?
Taxes.
Okay, everybody, so back up. We're going to go, we'll actually introduce Peggy instead of just randomly bringing her into a conversation. But as part of our Discover the Candidates series with the upcoming election for city council, school board, all those public offices, we do a bunch of stuff. We have the online profiles that we'll be releasing this week for you guys to look at. Each candidate has come in or was invited to come in for an interview with us. That, again, those will be coming out this week. And then also they were invited to stop on the Muscatine Today show, which we've seen a bunch of school board candidates, Don Lampy, all that fun stuff. And today, as part of that series, we have Peggy Gordon. How are you?
Good. Thanks, Chris. I appreciate it.
Yeah, anytime. And Peggy's a candidate for the 3rd Ward in Muscatine. She's also the incumbent in one term, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so for those of you are like, well, which ward am I in? The Muscatine 3rd Ward is basically kind of from downtownish Jefferson area on Mulberry. Take all the way out Mulberry, go around the bypass.
Tipton Road.
Or Tipton Road,
Yep.
Yeah. Go out Mulberry to Tipton, out and around, kind of over to almost to the Hy-Vee Lake Park area. So kind of like that wedge in between kind of Park Avenue and Mulberry.
It's sort of interesting that Mulberry is sort of the divider because one side is Dennis,
Yep.
a little Jeff, and then the other side is my ward. So, yeah, what side of the street are you on?
Right.
Type
Yep.
thing. So
and that's my mom is on the other side of the street.
Yeah.
She's on the what would that be? South side?
Or the hospital side.
Yeah, the hospital side.
People
Yeah,
are
let's go.
north, south, and
Yeah,
we get a
well, I
little
mean,
confused.
it's kind of the southish side.
Yeah. Say
I guess.
Jefferson, the hospital side.
Same side as Jefferson, the Art Center, the hospital, that side.
Yeah.
We call that the good side. No. I don't know.
Luckily, he's not a candidate.
Yeah, no, obviously not a candidate. So, Peggy, if you would, for those that don't know you, maybe introduce yourself, a little bit about you, and then why you want to run for city council again.
Well, thank you, Chris. I really thought this was just chat with Chris, have a conversation, but it is about the candidacy, I guess.
Well, it's both.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just, because not everybody knows you, so a little bit of background, and then we'll kind of cut loose with the fun stuff.
Well, I am the current incumbent for the 3rd Ward. I was elected in the 2019, so I became active in 2020. So this is the end of my first term, which has been very exciting. I'm a 45-year member of H&I. So I've been with the H&I family since I pretty much left school. I love working with the city. I've done several city projects before I was elected, and that's how I became interested in becoming, more involved with the city. I worked on the dog park, the library. I was on the library board, which, by the way, is a great way to get on the boards and associations to serve the city and to learn more about it. So I was on the library board, which was awesome. So this is hopefully going to be my second term. I'm looking forward to it and looking forward to Election Day.
Yeah. One thing that we were talking about last week is, because of course we help the candidates through like all the stuff, and we just have these conversations. And, one of the things that I always kind of love to hear is like, what are the things that like you're most proud of? What are the things that were fun or a little like different than you expected? And one thing that, I honestly would not have thought about this, was you mentioned of course you launched into COVID, right? You're that group. And so you were talking about like the small business grants and like how, because of course I remember obviously we had just started this business, like the year prior. So we were as fresh as you were on city council, right? And, there's all this stuff about, how do you keep your doors open? But, who has money, what payroll, what like PPP, like it was just crazy.
Right.
And you said the city had set aside a way to help. And then you guys just went out and found people, which blows my mind for a government to do.
Well, like you said, we came right into COVID. I mean, January, when you're on the city council the first time, you're just inundated with budget, January and February. Once we got past that, it came March 1, it was like, boom, everything has to shut down or adjust or become agile or nimble. You used that word earlier, which is perfect. So we had to adjust to working remotely or having our council meetings remotely, which I'm sort of proud that we still offer that ability. We have them in person, but people can still join remotely for those folks that don't want to come down to council. But the first thing is, how do we get people money? Because we didn't know if it was going to last 3 months or a couple years, and what I should have listened to in budget is things don't usually work quite as fast. We plan 6 months in advance for budget, but come April, we're like, boy, this is really serious. So I introduced a plan to see if we could try to find funds that were not impactful to the general fund, because we had to be respectful of that, but maybe there were TIF dollars or funds that we already had set aside for small business loans on a larger scale. But I said, how can we help more businesses? And everybody was on board. The first challenge was getting a list of all the businesses. I mean, we know the big businesses. We know, the chamber, the people that are chamber members. But we didn't have a lot of the smaller businesses.
And that's, this is one of the things we were talking about. It's like, obviously at Discover Muscatine Pearl City Media, we have a huge database of them. So like, of course, we have like, we know who's chamber members and stuff, but we consciously keep that. And it's hard. I mean, like a little business pops up here, there, and sometimes all you hear about is a little post on Facebook that somebody starts something, but that's a small business. That's something you got to get into your stuff, whether they're a chamber member or not, or whether they're whatever, it's legitimate.
Yeah, so, we started with the list, and there was a few hundred. But then my poor husband drove around town with me one evening, and I'm like, okay, that dance studio is not on the list. I've got to add them to the list, or this insurance company, or the things that you think of that aren't the larger service.
And that's how we do it. Same thing.
And so we added a bunch, and then working with our communication department, our community development team, and even the community foundation, we had to get the word out. So we sent postcards out. Because how do you communicate with everybody in town? That's very difficult.
Yes, it is.
Then we worked with the community foundation to use their granting process so we could have a way that people could apply for the grants. And then we could score them. Because this wasn't just, handing out money. But we had some legitimate requests because they had to stay in business another 6 months. It was a forgivable loan, so they weren't going to have to pay it back. It wasn't a lot of money. to the business, it was like $2,500. Pay your rent, pay some utilities, because that helps somebody else in town.
It takes pressure off.
Right.
And it takes, as you said, it takes pressure off a couple of groups, right?
Yeah.
So like if you've got a small business renting from a landlord who, you know, most all of the landlords in this community live in this community, right? We don't have a lot of outbound investor or investors coming in from other places buying properties and like big landlords, right? So if you're paying a landlord, you're paying somebody else in Muscatine, so we get to double dip it, which is I love how you guys portrayed that, right? Because it really does. You get to use the same money a couple times.
Yeah, so we did that, and the amazing thing, like I said, when it comes time to budgets and money, we had to be cautious and respectful of it, but we turned it around and got some of the first checks out in 6 weeks. So by late May, we were handing out money, and we provided over 90 grants to people, and which was, you know, a nice chunk of change that we could find, and we could get out to the people. We even, you know, would see someone that we know has a business and say, hey, did you apply your grant? Did you apply? It's easy. Call us. We can help you, that type of thing. But we were very agile, and we were able to get some funds out for that.
Yeah, and I love, you know, obviously, I don't know if you mentioned, but she's a project manager at HAN. Yeah. And that was very much like, I've heard you tell the story a couple times, and I enjoy it every time I do, because it's where business met government, right? In those moments of crisis, because again, anybody that tells you otherwise is lying, but none of us knew what we were doing, right? Like none of us knew. I guarantee you that April and May, none of us would have predicted that it was going to be, I mean, maybe we were predicted it was going to be a while, but not anywhere near like what it was. Right. And just seeing your little bit of connection, your skill set coming over to, you know, because here's the thing, if that wouldn't have been there, and this is no offense to city staff, but they don't necessarily have the experience in that kind of context, right?
Well, but they stepped up. We all stepped up, which was amazing because
right. That's my whole point.
Yeah. As a council member, we make decisions and we drive the budget and things like that. But we worked together. We had meetings. We went through the plan. We went through the list of the business and say, what about this? And it wasn't just myself. I mean, Nadine's been heavily involved a lot of times, but the whole council had to agree to it too. Right. Or it's a 4-3, but almost everybody voted for it. So as we think about city government, I mean, that was one of probably the most proud things. That was early on. I was somewhat naive, thinking we could do it, and we did it.
Sometimes that's the best way to be, though. What you don't know what you don't know. I don't know I'm not supposed to do this, so let's go do it. And it worked out tremendously well. But
that sort of makes me think of the next driving factor, that whole communication thing. Because we're sort of fractured in the way that we get communication, and people rely on Facebook and online, and not everybody has Facebook, and not everybody's online, and it's just like, how can we get improved communication of what's going on in the city? Not just the business of the city, but also the fun things. Like all the trunk or treats this weekend. There was crazy amount. Yeah. But how do you get that information out there? So I'm like,
I know. We do it. We do it.
But I mean, that's what we got to focus on, is how do we take a diverse population and make sure we get it out there to all the populations in a couple languages too at times. Some things need to be translated. So my focus...
It's almost like that's why we have Discover Muscatine in Spanish.
There you go.
On the line.
Yep.
Yeah, sorry.
And actually our new city website
is you can flip it. And
you can flip it.
Into French too, I think.
Yes, I think so. Yep. But I want to focus on making sure that we get that word out and to people. That's sort of a soft goal, but it's an important one, because people are always saying, well, I mean, if you read Facebook and troll the many chats that we have, it's like, oh, what's going on? What happens here? Or it's like, okay, we need to help. So, but anyways.
And that's an interesting point that you bring up, because it's, we have those same frustrations sometimes. And it's like, look, the information's all out there, right? Sometimes you have to go look for it. It doesn't always just land on you the moment you happen to need it, right? But that's also somewhat our responsibility to get it out there to them in those ways. And it's nice to see local government taking that perspective.
We made a great strides over the last couple of years, especially with some of the ARPA money, which came out of COVID. It's federal money that's granted to every city, but we've been able to upgrade things like software and stuff, which is something that cities have to do, but maybe not as quickly. But here we were able to do see-click fix. And I know some people won't want to do it, but that's fine. I've helped some people one-on-one doing it. I know Jeff's awesome. Everybody drives towards it. But man, talking about automated self-service to get something reported and to get potholes on a map so you can see it. Or another thing is our city administrator has implemented a monthly administration report. And it's almost probably 2 years now. But it's a lot of information. Now, this isn't necessarily the fun stuff. There is, of course, Parks and Rec and the Art Center and the library in there. But it's like, how many potholes? Well, you know, beginning of this year, I think in 3 months, we had 1,100 potholes that we filled. Not that we're existing, that we filled. What's the cost of that? Now, granted, some geeks might like that type of metric, but it's great information that's transparent, that's published every month.
Yep. And it's, you know, this is the one thing that I also kind of remind people is, okay, so say you see a pothole, okay? And say you're not on one of the main thoroughfares like Mulberry or Park Avenue or whatever. Chances are you're probably the first ones to see it, right? You're the ones that live with it. Just raise your hand, right? Like, it's not like you have to go out and fill it yourself, right?
No.
But, you know, it just be extra eyes and ears, right? And toss it up through the see-click fix. Yeah, I could never get them in the right order. But yeah, the see-click fix. Or, I mean, if that's email your council member, email somebody at City Hall. Like, they'll get there, but, like, it's okay to raise your hand. And, you know, it's
improved the response time. I mean, now we're starting to measure metrics, SLAs, I mean, service level agreements. You know, so again, sort of going back to that agile, we've sort of had to, because of COVID, we could upgrade some of our softwares. We can implement some things like this that help us become more responsive and to provide the metrics, which improves our transparency.
Yeah. So as you look, you know, towards the next couple of years, I mean, obviously we've had some fun stuff this summer and, you know, whatever, but like, what are the things that you look forward to for Muscatine over the next handful of years if things go well?
Well, one, we always have to keep fiscally sound. I mean, that's just sort of one of our foundational pieces. But, you know, how can we do that and maybe add some staffing? Because we probably could use some additional
You and I
staff.
have a very different definition of the word fun. Staffing is not fun. I mean, yes, we have cool people who can be fun on staff.
We do have.
But obviously
it's important for us to maintain our services.
Right.
We do a great job with our first responders and things like that. I mean, we're finally getting hiring up for our police and our firefighters. And I mean, we do a good job there. We just need to make sure we have other roles that are improved, increased, whatever it is, but we need to see if we need to improve that. I want to make sure that we're a great place to work. I come from a great industry. A lot of our industries in town here are very positive places to work. And the city is. The employees are here for a long time, but just, you know, they need to be appreciated. So I keep mentioning that, simple things. You know, we just did an ergonomic study, again, using some ARPA money, and we just replaced some chairs that were 30 years old. We wanted to replace our chairs, and I'm like, we're not replacing our chairs until we look at the staff. They sit in at 8 hours a day. We sit in at, you know, 3 to 5 hours a month, and the, you know, school board sits in a, you know, a couple of, hours a month. And it's like, but we need to. So
you don't go in there like during the day randomly and just like sit down and enjoy your chair?
I do. I tell Lindsay on the school board, it's like, don't mess with my pencils. No.
I can't wait till I see Lindsay. Oh, this is gonna be fun.
Me too.
I'm gonna be like, hey, could you mess with Peggy for me? Could you just like move her pencils and like, no.
No, but we, you know, but I've gone in and used it for a meeting room if I'm there and nothing else is going on. But no, but we have freshened it up. And again, using some ARPA money because it's not something we could budget for.
No, and that's, you know, that is the tough thing about city government because it's so local and there are so many needs, and no matter what, you know, you could make a wish list
Oh,
16 million miles long, but you still have limited resources. And it's always tough because you're never going to get all the things you want, right? And so it's about balance. And like, okay, like city council chamber chairs. Is it, I mean,
it would be so low. I mean, we'd get a mower for some park first because we have to keep the infrastructure. We need to keep the quality of life. And where I sit is not quality of life. It doesn't matter. But if we can use extra funds that we receive. But right now in November, every department is going through and making their wish list items. What are their wants and what are their needs? Yep. And then that'll sort of get pared down and presented to us. And we'll go through them again and say, okay, what can we do? Because when I first got on, it seemed like we were buying like 4 or 5 police cruisers at a time. And Oz and I, Councilman Malcolm Osmond, who sat next to me, I'm like, we need to balance this out. So we're buying 2 or 3 every year, no matter what. We're just buying because we got to keep it in. Well, now because of COVID, supply chain is awful.
Right.
And so to buy any piece of major equipment, a police cruiser or a truck for public works, it takes years. It's crazy. So we've had to adjust sometimes, saying instead of a cruiser, we're going to get a truck. And that didn't come from us, but that came from decisions from public safety.
Right.
But we have to be agile that way. But yeah, right now they're going through their wish list saying, and the needs, going, okay, this piece of equipment, and we run them ragged, is like 25 or 30 years old.
Yep.
We got to get it because the cost to maintain is so high.
Yeah.
So
as we look at, we're about a week out. For those that don't know you, what's 1 or 2 things that you would like them to know as they go to the polls?
Pretty dedicated to the city. I mean, I try to get to every event that I can, whether they're the happy ones or whether they're construction project meetings. That's where I met Jeff from Bosch. I was down in Grandview, even though it's not my ward, I would be down to those project meetings or the public meetings because we have to hear. So I like to dedicate myself to that. I love to see projects come to fruition. I'm huge on lean processes. I want to see us improve that. Being as part of H&I or most industries in town, lean is in our DNA. And cities and governments can really take advantage of that by improving our processes. And I think we're on track, but we just need to keep on it. So I'm a big dog advocate. Therefore, the dog park, working with Aaron and a committee, it took us 6 years. This is not something that I got something done in 6 weeks. Well, sometimes it takes 6 years to get it done. But we were dedicated to that cause to get it completed. So I like to stick to it and try to get things accomplished.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. And folks, just as a quick reminder, every candidate has the same opportunities to come in and talk in the kind of more of a free mode here on the Today Show. And we will be putting out over the next couple days their more formal interviews where they were all asked the same questions and they had a very structured environment so that you could get the same information from each candidate. Wow, that sounds so boring when I talk about it like that.
Well, but this conversation is more fluid and was very cash. But you got to do the formal one too.
You do, because we want to make sure that everybody has equal opportunities to be seen and be heard, and that you have the opportunity to get, people to actually answer questions. Not that they're super hard questions, but to be fair and just to be kind of down the middle, because that's always what we try and do for you, Muscatine. So.
Get out and vote.
Get out and vote.
I voted this morning before I came over here.
Did you?
Oh, super easy.
Yeah, I have not yet. I'll do it Tuesday.
Okay.
I don't know why. I want to go.
I like to too, but this time I'm like.
Yeah.
I got a few minutes and I'll just pop into the auditor's office and it was so easy.
Yep. Well, awesome.
Well, thank you, Chris.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for coming, Peggy. Good luck this week. And Muscatine, enjoy the rest of your, it's not quite as gloomy as it was Monday morning, and attack the rest of the day with an enthusiastic